as a journalist and as a film lover, I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp about how movies are made, and I feel like in my circle of friends, my family, I'm the one who's always trying to explain stop motion to people. And then I see the BoxTrolls and I have no idea how you do it.
It's just magic, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. How, can you talk a little bit about your journey to stop motion? Was that always something that you felt you wanted to do, or was this kind of just something?
Well, I've always loved animation of all kinds, and I've done hand-drawn traditional animation, and I've done CG animation, and I've worked a lot in comics and comic books. But until I ended up as a story artist on Coraline a bunch of years ago, I really didn't have much interaction with stop motion. It was this mysterious process. And I'll never forget the first time when the first stages, sets, and puppets were up, and I could go down and take a look, and it just blew me away. I really had no idea how much power there is in seeing all this stuff miniaturized. It is truly magical. I mean, it's just no other medium quite like it.
Yeah. I've done all kinds of animation. I was trained originally as a traditional animation drawing, and I've done some CG animation. But early in my career, I worked at a bunch of places like Industrial Light and Magic and other studios in the Bay Area where they still built models and they still did practical effects, and we did drawings and stuff. So that's always been my first love. I enjoyed working on CG films, but being in a big studio where there's a carpentry department, where people are building things and sets and costume department and puppets, is kind of like getting the last chance to be working on the old Warner Brothers lot, in the heyday of movies in the 30s and 40s where everybody's there together. So when I got to visit Leica, about 7 years ago when Travis Knight first gave me the book to read, for me it was kind of like going home. I hadn't been in a place like that. I'd spent a lot of years in dark rooms with just computer screens.
Sure.
So.
Can you... I don't want to ruin the mid-credit scene.
Yes.
But our theater was howling at it. Can you talk about the genesis of adding that? Whose idea was it? What point of production did you say this is going?
Well, there's always one in every Leica film.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a tradition now at our studio, and it all started from Coraline. There was this incredible sequence, scene animated with these floating ghost mice out of bricks. And it took an animator over a month and a half to create. And at a certain point, it became obvious, unfortunately, that story-wise and pacing-wise wasn't going to fit in the film. So Henry Selick was adamant about putting it at least at the end of the credits so people could at least enjoy it. And that's become a thing now with all our films. It's we want a little peek behind the curtain. I think when you watch a Leica movie, you get lost in the story and the wonderful worlds that we create, and it's kind of fun at the end to get a little peek of like, oh, wait a minute, that's right, that's how this is done. You sort of forget about how it's done.
We felt that everybody's story had been tied up nicely. Portly Ryan had been redeemed, Eggs was living above ground, Herbert had a box of, a jelly box on. But we said, one part of you wondered about what happened to Pickles and Trout. So he said it would be great to revisit them. And then Nick Frost and Richard Ayoade, all the way through the film, have had these philosophical arguments.
Sure.
So he said, well, what would these guys be talking about at the end? And it seemed like having this big picture, the universal discussion would be right. So we wrote it, and we wrote the dialogue back and forth. They each recorded both sides of the dialogue and improvised on it, and then we just had to pick. We had this huge amount to pick and choose from of who was saying what and how the other one was answering and stuff, and it became that special Leica button.
It's phenomenal. Can you talk a little bit about the technology? How has the technology since Coraline made these movies more efficient?
Well, I mean, unlike ever before, I think, we've got a stop-motion studio now that's stayed together for 3 features. Yeah. So each department just gets better at what they do and more refined with their process. And, I mean, one of the big leaps has been the facial animation in the film. We do everything with 3D printers.
I'm geeking out right now.
There's 53,000 of these printed out with minute changes to the expression of the characters for lip sync and everything. Now, this is a technology, this rapid prototype printing that Leica has brought to the stop motion, experience. But the armature inside, although better made and made with amazing different metals and stuff and put together by our rigging department, the concept for this is the same as King Kong, the original King Kong. That hasn't changed. It's just gotten better. But this technology, as well as, like Graham was saying, technology that's added to the scale and scope and the effects of the film, that's what Leica's been focusing on.
I just want to sit here all day and watch you guys play with things.